Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the sixth installment of Business Newsletter Recap. I'm your host, Nathan Pohl. If you're tuning in for the first time, I'm putting my hours of business newsletter reading to work for you to curate top editions in podcast format. You can think of it as your highlight reel of business content, so you don't have to read through every single newsletter that comes across your inbox. You might even discover some new creators to follow as well. Today, we have selections from 3 newsletters that I found insightful, including a breakdown of misdirection marketing, guidelines to keep in mind when working with influencers, and practical tips for setting goals and running your business from a multi-million-dollar startup founder. I will have links in the show notes to follow all of the writers on social media and to sign up for the newsletters yourself. If you missed episodes 1 through 5, go back and take a listen. You can listen to every episode in about the time you get through a normal podcast. We're starting off today with a selection from Marketer Gems, written by Tom Snyder. Tom is a marketer and entrepreneur based in Austin, Texas, building 2 really cool things for marketers. One is the Marketer Gems newsletter, where he introduces fascinating marketing nuggets for over 15,000 newsletter subscribers. He also started marketertools.co, which aggregates and categorizes hundreds of different marketing tools and tech platforms to help founders and marketing leaders find the best solutions for their needs. I've enjoyed reading through the many gems in the newsletter, and today's was one of my favorites, breaking down misdirection marketing. Misdirection marketing is simply planning errors to happen in your marketing so that people engage with it. It plays on people's desires to be right, something I think we all know is pretty prevalent in the world. After all, we know that if a brand posts a typo on a graphic, false information, or a poorly proofread piece of copy, people will come out in droves to dunk on them. But all this attention can be really nice for a brand, which is why some companies will sporadically make mistakes on purpose. Tom shares the classic example recently of Virgin Voyages, who sent out a Black Friday email a couple of years ago with a lot of placeholder text with a headline that read, 30% off all sailings. Quite a discount for a cruise line with some packages in 5 figures. They sent out an email a couple hours later to all customers saying, oops, we're human, and agreeing to honor the mistake discount that the template email touted. They never admitted if this mistake was intentional or not, but I suspect it was, since it was quickly shared across the internet. And since then, many brands have intentionally sent mistake emails, especially around Black Friday. Another example was a social media post by Hostess ahead of baseball's opening day. They had a graphic with a Hostess cake frosted like a baseball with the word touchdown on it. While this one didn't go quite as viral as the cruise line, they still got a lot of engagement from people laughing at the joke, which just really isn't the type of humor you expect from a corporate account. Finally, you have one of my favorite examples that gets used a lot for high-ticket or high-value brands, the "we made too much" sale. Many brands try to avoid running sales because they don't want people to come to expect discounts and then never buy at full price. But sometimes you have overstock or a less popular item that you want to get more sales out of, so brands like Lululemon advertise the slightly self-deprecating line of "we made too much" to justify lowering prices. Tom shared a headline from the wild with that exact messaging, which simultaneously builds trust with consumers as it acknowledges the company made a mistake and makes them feel like they are getting a good deal at the company's expense. But, like all of these examples, it's just manufactured. Tom emphasizes at the end of the email that misdirection marketing is a tactic that you only want to use sparingly. If you make too many public mistakes, even if they are staged, you start to change the perception of your brand from high quality to low quality. High quality brands have the true element of surprise, since you don't expect them to mess up. As misdirection marketing offers a highly viral upside, more and more brands have pulled a leaked email stunt, which also means consumers are on their guard. Pull that more than once, and people will instantly assume that it was staged and lower their trust in your company. However, If used very sparingly, a misdirection in a playful mess-up on a social graphic can drive more engagement than a regular post. A pop-up sale that claims you made too much of a product also allows you to cut prices every now and then without becoming a discount brand in the eyes of consumers. Tom wraps up the newsletter with the advice that the best times to use misdirection marketing tactics are during one-off events that you are trying to capitalize on, and to never make a cadence out of the tactics. People are usually pretty good at sniffing out gimmicks. Hey, quick break here. I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Unicorn Flames. They're a startup studio focused on marketing, branding, and growth for early-stage ventures. I had the pleasure of working for their founder, Tim Haynes, for a long time, and he is a fantastic ideator and marketer. If you're an early-stage entrepreneur or have a business idea up your sleeve, send Tim a message on LinkedIn and check out Unicorn Flames at unicornflames.com. I'll have the links in the show notes for you. Now, back to the show. Our second newsletter comes from Tack Insider, written by Nick Bennett and Mark Kylans. Tack Insider is a great resource for educating companies on B2B marketing and go-to-market strategies, and they recently wrote a great edition about influencer marketing. The phrase influencer marketing might conjure up the idea of paying a 19-year-old TikTok star to use your product on camera. But that is not the only way that influencer marketing works these days. Social media algorithms are making it harder than ever to grow organically as a business account. More and more companies are relying on founders or C-suite employees to drive their organic social presence, and influencers on LinkedIn and Twitter with audiences in a variety of business industries are creating opportunities for B2B brands to jump into the game that most people associate with TikTok dances and direct-to-consumer products. Mark shares the three categories that B2B influencers fall into. There are enterprise value creators, who solve business problems and help increase efficiency, professional value creators, who help individuals achieve career milestones, and personal value creators, who help solve human pain points to improve individual work life. I'm sure if you took a quick scan through your LinkedIn feed that you would find examples from all three categories. Nick jumps in and emphasizes that before working with an influencer or business creator, you need to make sure they are creating one of these types of value for your target audience. It's also important that you create a true partnership. Unlike D2C influencers, which can be pretty transactional, there is a lot of opportunity in business to business to collaborate on white papers, blog articles, or LinkedIn posts that can be used to bolster your organic and paid content. Missed opportunities to involve your partners in material used in your whole sales pipeline ensures that you won't get enough out of the deal. I really liked Tack Insider's practical guidelines to think about when partnering with influencers in the B2B world, and they close the newsletter by sharing a link to a free influencer marketing course on their website that I will have in the show notes if you want to dive deeper. Our final newsletter of the day is another edition from Tyler Denk's Big Desk Energy. A repeat spotlight, Tyler is the founder of Beehiiv, who power the Marketer Gems newsletter, and I would venture to say most of the other newsletters that I feature in this show. Simply put, Beehiiv is the platform that you want to use to write newsletters, thanks to how fast Tyler's team ships product updates. Today's spotlight is actually a combination of two newsletters, a first for the show. I loved reading Tyler's entire breakdown of how his company applied the Entrepreneurial Operating System, usually abbreviated as EOS. There is plenty of places where you can read about EOS, including the book Traction by Gino Wickham. So I want to focus today on some of the specific applications that Tyler implements in their business, which does spill over into a second edition of his newsletter. A big part of the EOS framework is quarterly rocks, which are large goals that affect the whole company. Tyler shares that these should be binary. Either you completed them or you didn't. and ultimately owned by one person. Multiple people may work on the rock, but if multiple people are responsible for completing it, then it gets really messy. Rocks should feed into annual and long-term goals, and I love that Tyler details beehives in the newsletter, so I'll link it in the show notes if you want to read more about them. But today we're going to focus on the short-term strategies that Beehiiv uses to scale their company. Tyler shares that the best way his team stays aligned and constantly handles obstacles in the way of these quarterly rocks is a weekly 90-minute meeting. And he goes all the way to sharing his agenda for how this meeting works at Beehiiv. The first few minutes are reserved for miscellaneous items. Then the team reviews their dashboard of KPIs for about 10 minutes. Review of leadership rocks is up next, followed by reviewing the weekly success list, which we'll talk more about in a second. This opening section of the meeting takes about 30 minutes total and is focused on celebrating wins and identifying key issues. KPIs are off track? That's an issue that gets added to the second section of the agenda. Are rocks in danger of not getting completed? Another issue. Weekly to-do list items that didn't get completed? Another issue. For the remaining hour of the weekly leadership meeting, Tyler and Beehiiv leadership walk through all the issues identified in the first section, following a 3-step framework. The first is to identify the core issue at stake. An issue might come up that a team member didn't complete a very important task for the week, which is the surface level. The underlying problem might be that the team member didn't have capacity to take on such a large task last week because they had a dozen other things on their plate. But getting to root causes means that they dig deeper and might find that the team member isn't prioritizing the right tasks in their week, or it could be that the task itself took a lot longer than leadership realized, and that a 1-week turnaround was unrealistic. After arriving at the core issue, they go over data and share insights on how to solve the problem. And then finally, the third step of the framework is they make a decision to solve the problem or have someone in charge of solving it before the next meeting. Tyler shares that this meeting is so critical to helping Beehiiv run like a machine that he very rarely ever moves it and never cancels it, even if someone can't make it. Something of that level of importance to a company making tens of millions of dollars is something worth paying attention to. To accompany this 90-minute meeting with leadership, Tyler shares a weekly success list with the entire company. This was referenced in the weekly leadership meeting, but it is public to everyone. It lays out all of the things that would have to get done to consider the week a success. Sometimes this list might only have one thing on it. That doesn't mean that that's the only thing that will be worked on, but that should be the thing that if nothing else gets done but that, the business would make positive strides forward. This plan sounds fairly basic, but it's a great way to stay organized. If you're running a small business, staying organized can be pretty difficult. I would highly recommend taking Tyler's approach and creating a weekly success list, maybe even a daily success list that prioritizes everything that needs to happen to win the day, or the week, or the month, or whatever time frame you pick. You can always do more than what's on the list, but if you get that list done and nothing else, you can rest knowing that the week or day was successful. That's a powerful way to both focus your own efforts on the things that matter most, but also communicate that to your team so that they can prioritize their time as well. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you'll find sign-up links and more information about Marketer Gems, Tack Insider, and Tyler, Denk, and Beehiiv in the show notes. And if you liked this episode, check out our first few as well. Tyler is a repeat appearance on this show, and there's plenty of other great insights that you won't want to miss. And finally, if you have a newsletter or business topic that you want me to highlight, please reach out. My contact information is in the show notes, and I truly do appreciate the feedback. If you enjoyed the episode, it is 100% free to you to leave a review on whatever platform you are listening to right now, or to subscribe on YouTube. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Business Newsletter Recap Podcast.